Welcome to Bro Brunch at the Blackbird, the show where three bros get together weekly in the front window of the Blackbird Espresso Bar and Bistro in Topeka, Kansas. We discuss all things that we love about entertainment, and sometimes we invite some of our old friends and, of course, some new friends to join us. We love our arts and our artists in our community and hope to bring you some awareness of the talent here in the top city. Now, here are Dylan Hart, Sean Nyberg, and me, Dusty Nichols. Welcome to Bro Brunch at the Blackbird. Today we have the director, actor, teacher, not just in high school, but he also helped me. He taught me how to do some direction, which I'm really appreciated for. But he's also the founder of Ad Astra Theater, and the only thing we found out that he doesn't handle drills and tools very well, but he will do it if whatever's necessary. So anyway, welcome Craig Fisher to the show. Thanks.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, Craig.
Hello.
Hey, Craig.
Hello.
Here's the first thing I want to know. What was the first moment that you realized that you loved being in theater and that it was what you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
I would say it was probably like high school. I should probably go back further than that because when in middle school I was my best friend who was we lived like next to each other, rode the bus together every day, and we've known each other since second grade, and I had the hugest crush on her when I was in middle school, which obviously didn't turn out well for either of us. But she started doing theater in middle school, and so I started doing it because I wanted to get close to her. Yeah, and so then I got cast in a few things, and the bug kind of bit me, and that's kind of when I started. So that's when I fell in love with it, and then high school was when I found my tribe, as they say.
You got cast in a few things. What was your first?
Oddly enough, weird connection. My first show was called Robin Hood. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, my first show in middle school was called Robin Hood.
Okay.
I don't remember. There was a subtitle, but I don't remember what it was.
Men in Tights kind of thing?
Well, yeah, I guess it was middle school, pioneer drama, version of Robin Hood. So.
Well, what's funny about that, the connection, is that the first time I met Craig was an Academy show at Topeka Civic Theater, and it was the somewhat true tale of Robin Hood, and he cast me as Friar Tuck, and that was a very wonderful experience.
It was.
I loved it so much, and that was my first. One of my first introductions into TCT.
And that was my first Academy show that I directed too.
It was good. I had a lot of fun. The whole cast was there. That's where I met Wendy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she talked about that too.
Yeah.
Because Morgan was in that show.
Yep.
Yeah.
She was.
You're very fond of that experience.
Yeah.
Yes. I very much loved that show. So that's why that's funny.
Was there a moment that you thought, I want to create my own thing, my own company, take my tribe and make them something?
I think I had the instinct to do it. I got involved locally pretty young. I started doing Helen Hawker when I was 16 because my friends were doing it, and so I came and auditioned. And so finding that group was really great. And then after college, coming back and finding my friend group at TCT was really nice. I don't know that I ever had the wherewithal at that point in my life to actively go out and start something. I don't think if you would have told me when I was 25 that you're gonna have the drive to go make something on your own, I probably would not have thought I could do that. It wasn't until grad school that thought really even came into my head, where I felt like I could actually I had the resources, I had the friends, and I had the drive to actually do it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You've said on Facebook how the idea for Ad Astra Theater came to be. Can you elaborate on that?
I think I was in my second year of grad school. I moved to Illinois to be a part of this directing program, and all of my classmates had got directing jobs for the summer, all over the country, and I had not received any offers, and so I was just going to move back home, and I was going to work at the TCT Academy over the summer, and I messaged a few friends and I said, hey, I have this idea. I want to start this company, and or I want to produce some shows. I want to do 2 shows over the summer. And I said, are you interested in helping? Like I would direct them, and then we would just need help like casting and finding spaces and all that. And they were all super into it. Luckily for me, they were all super into it. And then we just had, I think, like 2 or 3 meetings before I officially came back for the summer to like get things started, and made a plan. And it kind of happened really fast. I don't know how, like, it feels like it's been like 30 years, but it hasn't, it's only been 10. So I don't really know. I don't really remember exactly how all the pieces lined up. But I do know that it was a couple of meetings in my friend Kelly and Stacy's house, like late nights talking about stuff, and then kind of figuring out a plan. And then it was like, are people going to audition for this stuff? Are people going to like come see it? I don't know. And so I asked people to be involved because I was like, I don't know if anybody's going to come out and audition. And then luckily people were like, sure, I'll do it. And it went off really, really well.
What was it Eurydice? Was that the first one?
Yeah, Eurydice was our first show by Sarah Rule, which is a show I had a intense connection with in graduate school. It was one of the first plays I read in grad school, one of the first plays I saw in Chicago. And my graduate school classmates, we all really loved it, and we did a version of it at graduate school. And then I was like, I'm going to bring this play to Topeka. I love this play so much. And then, I found some amazing people to be involved, and they did a really wonderful job. I don't know how we pulled it off. We were lucky because I was working during the day at Civic, and Shannon was very kind and said, if you'd like to use these 2 rooms for rehearsal space, you totally can. And then we found Warehouse 414 downtown, and I don't know. I do remember this. I was home for spring break, and it was March, like late March, and Kelly and I and Kim, I think, and maybe Stacy were going down to look at the space, and it had just snowed the night before, so it was bad. Like, it was a lot of snow, and so we had to like drive in and go look at the space, and it was perfect. It was freezing in there, but it was perfect.
Yeah.
And then Chris Grandmontagne was just wonderful and was like, whatever you need, we'll be happy to have you. And since that show, they were like, anytime we need furniture, we need, for Wild Party, we needed all this fabric, and she just gave us this giant roll of fabric. So they were great.
Was there an actual audition process for that?
No. And part of me regrets that we didn't have auditions. I wish we would have, because there was some, especially with the musical, I know that there was some people who were like, I really would have wanted to audition for that, or I want to be a part of that. And I was like, I just think I was so self-conscious and so nervous before that summer that I was like, I don't know if anybody will actually, like, nobody's heard of this show. I don't know if anybody's going to come out for this show. And so I was like, I just felt like the safe bet was just to ask people and then just produce it. So
seems like way to go. Yeah,
it's not ideal for actors. Like if there's a new opportunity and there's something that is interesting that you've never heard of, then maybe you want to be involved. And I feel like I kind of denied that experience to some people, but we learned our lesson very quickly. So
you got to show up.
Yeah.
Whatever else it gives or doesn't give to actors, it got your show up to say, can you come do this? Please come do this for me.
Yeah.
I know that you're talented, Ryan McCoy. I know that you're talented, Cat Keys.
Yeah.
So
Who
please
else was
come
in
do
it?
this.
I would know anyway.
Yes, Ryan, Kat, a young man named Brandon Durkees, who I really like a lot, who now does improv in Kansas City. It was Sarah Hazen's, I believe, her first show. I think, because she was good friends with Dorian, and Dorian was like, you should talk to this person. She would be really great, and so she came on board pretty quickly. Katie Wright, and then Dylan Van Sickle. And I had known Dylan from doing Robin Hood together. So, yeah, it was I think that when they read the script, they were all like, what the hell is this? what is this play? And then, like, the more we dug into it, they were like, oh, okay, they can kind of see the beauty, and like, it helped me establish my aesthetic as a director,
right?
Which was good for me, because then when I went back to school, I was able to really like hone that and make that into something marketable, I think. So
Sarah Rule's a really, really good writer.
Yeah.
Her Three Sisters is fantastic.
Yeah. At some point in my life, I would love to do all of her plays, like program them all into one season, and just do all like a whole Sarah Rule season. But I don't know. I almost did one at school this year because I couldn't find something else, and I was like, well, I know this is good. I can always just go back to this thing. And now I'm kind of wishing I would have, but maybe next year. So.
Would you ever go back and do another? I mean, it's not exactly the same, but another Greek tragedy. Is that something that interests you at all?
I shouldn't say this out loud, but I've never directed Shakespeare, and I've never directed a Greek play.
I've never acted in a Greek tragedy either,
Yeah.
and I want to do that.
I would love to.
I did a Reader's Theater of Antigone, and I did, I forget what it's called, but the one about where Agamemnon comes home and then his wife kills him.
That's the Oresteia.
Yes, I did the Oresteia. But do you have want or drive to do either one of those?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to. I think that there's a scale with Greek tragedy, especially, that I'm not super comfortable with, because while I love those plays and I know what they're about and I can communicate that to actors, I just feel like I don't know that my aesthetic totally fits with this grand epic scale of what that is. But at the same time, I want to do a lot of Brecht pieces, which are epic theater, which have the same kind of idea, different storytelling, but different ideas. But yes, I would love to do that. I'm considering doing Shakespeare with my kids next year, but I haven't decided if that's a great idea yet or not.
But would there be a Shakespeare that you had thought about doing with them, possibly?
I mean, I really love Twelfth Night. I mean,
Yeah.
if I had to pick one, that's my favorite of all of them. The comedies I really love. This is probably silly, but I've had this idea of doing Hamlet, but set during the Civil War, and kind of using some of the themes that are in that to talk about that time period and what was happening. And I know
That would be super interesting.
I know the play is it's not set in America, and it's not about any of that stuff. So it's I don't always like when we take Shakespeare out of its context and apply something else to it. But I think that there are ways to tie those two things together in some way.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
You were talking about Twelfth Night. You had a part in Twelfth Night, the all-female cast here just not too long ago. What was that like?
It was great. I was really happy that Shannon came to me and said, "Do you want to collaborate on this?" And then the JAC was like, "This would be a great way for us all to work together." And I didn't get a chance to be part of the rehearsal process, but we did talk a lot, and then I got to help design the lights and help with some of the sound stuff, getting all the technical equipment set up and making sure that they had all that running. And it was really nice to just be in the room and watch these women work and do this thing that.
It was a cool production.
Yeah.
It was very, very nice.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked being there for that.
Would you do that again? Something like that?
I would love to do that. I mean, I think that there's a lot of value in breaking down gender barriers, especially in theater, because I think there's a lot of play and a lot of ways to do that. We've talked for years, and I hate the term colorblind casting because being colorblind isn't a thing, but there's a way to be inclusive in the stories that we tell, and as an audience member to push people outside of their comfort zones and make them think about stories in a different way. So yeah, of course.
And you get some amazing performances, in my opinion. I know we did Psycho Beach Party. You allowed me to co-direct with you, and that was my first experience in just watching how you cast and who you cast and how they took a hold of those characters.
Yeah.
You drew stuff out of people that I was surprised. I'll just say that, and it was really interesting to watch some of those actors really grab a hold of those characters, and some of them are still advancing with some of that today.
Yeah.
So.
I told Alex on Facebook that I was like, "It's nice to see you in drag again." This was really
He
great.
just finished
Georgia McBride.
At TCT.
Yeah.
He was great.
That was one of my favorite shows because my love is camp, ridiculous, kind of super gay, super queer stories, and to tell that one, which is all of those things wrapped in one, but also a horror movie in some ways, but it was so much fun.
When you chose shows, that you and the board who also chose shows, was it about this is a show that I'd want to see, or was it about this is a story that needs to be told? Was it all of it?
Yeah, I think I will admit selfishly at first that it was a lot of I want to do this. Yeah. I need to direct this show.
No shame.
I was like, this is. I mean, it was never a resume builder for me. I mean, it always did, but it was never I have to do this so I have a more distinct resume. But it was these are shows that aren't being done here necessarily. That audiences aren't seeing necessarily. That was the mission. Started off that way. It was how do we provide an alternative arts experience to this community that doesn't step on anybody's toes, that doesn't,
Sure, yeah.
you know, I don't want to ape what someone else is doing, and I don't want to copy, and I don't want them to feel like we're infringing on what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And we already have a really rich performance community in our city, so it was like, how do we do this effectively? And then selfishly, we picked some shows at first, and then it became like, okay, what is important that we tell? Like, why are we doing these stories now? Why are we picking these plays? When we started the Homegrown Project, it was like, we want to showcase playwrights who have written things and are working on things but haven't had a chance to show them off yet. Because this is basic, but at our core, what are we? We're storytellers.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
And the stories that need to be told are the ones that are the most important. The ones that aren't seen on a daily basis, the ones that don't have like the most coverage.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that we should be telling. You know what I mean?
I would think something like Angels in America, which Ad Astra did, would cover all of that.
A lot
Something
of
that needed to be told. Something that wasn't very likely not going to be told
Yeah.
here. And that was one that was just beyond fantastic to watch as an audience member. But
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing.
Yeah, I was really proud of that that experience, just because I think the cast did a really wonderful job in experiencing what that play was, but then also being able to collaborate with Positive Connections and offer free HIV testing for anyone that came to see the show was
I didn't know that.
wonderful.
That's super
yeah,
cool.
and we passed out free condoms and all that stuff, so it was great.
It's fantastic. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
But
I didn't
was
know that
was
part
a
of it.
that was
Yeah.
a great
Super cool.
yeah.
I
Oh, thanks.
there was a lot. I wish, again, that's another show. I feel like my mantra is going to be like, I wish more people had seen it.
Yeah.
But you tell people that you're going to come see a 2.5 hour long play in the middle of February at a place that doesn't have any heat. Like, there's some things that like are prohibitive about that, and I wish that people would have been experienced that more. But the people who did had a very wonderful time.
They
and
did.
and I think enjoyed what they saw.
What year did you do that?
2014? Yeah. Thank you. You know more than I do.
It's
good.
It's all
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Sean Bolt. Got them all.
I can't wait on this question now. What are 3 of your favorite plays or
Ever?
musicals?
Oh, that's really tough. I would say Eurydice is probably on there.
Yeah, because you were talking about that one, so
yeah.
that's why I couldn't stop asking
Yeah.
this question now.
August Osage County is up there as well. Yes,
Yeah.
we were going to do it, but then we found out Civic was doing it, and I was like, well, that's great. They should do it because they have the resources to do it, and we don't. But like, I want to do that play so badly. I think it's mostly because it's set in a place that I am familiar with. It's set within a family dynamic that I am at least partially familiar with. My family is not like that by any means, but like, but there are some things about that experience that I was like, oh, okay, yeah. So that plays like, I would say up there. Company is a musical that I like can't quit. Like it's just it's always it's always been a part of who I am. And then like I don't know, I feel like I would go back and forth between Company and Into the Woods, and I feel like Into the Woods is kind of an odd choice for me because that's not a musical that I like outwardly people would be like, I can't imagine you liking Into the Woods, but the story it tells and the connections it has at the time it was written.
At the time it was written, it had a lot to say about a lot of very important things.
We watched it with my middle schoolers last year, and they were kind of asking me some questions about like when it was written and why it was written, and I was like, I don't think Stephen Sondheim would ever say this, but if you break that musical down and you take the time period that it was written, a lot of things, especially in Act 2, are reflective of the AIDS crisis in the 80s in New York, and like how people keep dying and people keep leaving you, but then like how important it is to make your own family and to create. Like I have goosebumps now because it moves me a lot. I didn't know that much about the show until I like spent time watching it and reading it and then seeing it, and then when we collaborated with Washburn on it, being able to like sit in the audience and watch these actors tell the story, it was like, oh, okay, this is beautiful. Yeah.
How important is it to you to have conversations with the actors about character and about themes and
I mean, that's where I always like to start. It doesn't always work out that way. Like, I know the first couple of shows I was doing, I'd loved to just have like 4 rehearsals of table work, especially if there's a lot of like issues or like for Angels in America, we sat down and we talked a lot about that. When we did the Christians, we had like a whole week of discussion.
That was a great show.
Thank you. I was really proud of how that turned out. But we had a week of like talking about religion, talking about church, talking about what the themes were, and then talking about how these people fit into this play, and then looking at like examples of sermons and talking about different types of pastors and getting them, that's to me the best part of this is when you get to have those conversations with actors.
Me too.
I think for that show in particular, because of where the setting was, you actually did it in a church and did the performances there. But the types of pastors and all that stuff you talked about really paid off because those actors, Devin Garcia was amazing in that one.
Yeah.
They were all amazing, but I remember thinking, this is the best I've seen Devin. And I think part of it was because of that character work.
And he brought a lot of his own history into that role and his own history into our experience as a cast, because he knew a lot more about that world than I did. Like, he knew more about this like mega church idea, the biblical study, how straight lined they are about this, like what's in the Bible and like what this means. And so he brought a lot of that in, which helped, I think, everyone and aided those discussions. And I would say I had worked with all of those actors in that show except for Devin at that point. And I'm biased in some way, but that is like the best work I've seen all of them do. Like I love Matt Escobar so much, and he's done so much with us. That was the most work I'd seen him do as an actor, and like
he was very, very good.
And I absolutely love him, and I think he's great whenever he does. Watching him push himself and like ask himself questions and think about acting in a way that he hadn't thought about it.
That's true. He did bring something out that I haven't seen. I've been in a couple shows with him. And you're right.
I really liked the talk back you had afterwards too. That was super cool.
I'm married to a dramaturg, so those things are important. And having people there to facilitate those who are not me or the cast. Like, normally I've been to talkbacks where the cast and the director will kind of facilitate those conversations, but you're so close to the material that it's like, can you really facilitate that conversation? You should bring in a professional or someone who has experience with this to help lead those discussions. And there were some nights where it was like, this is going to get a little heated because there were a lot of opinions in a room. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, you have to have someone who can navigate that, who can encourage and then shut down some things when you don't want to have those hard conversations.
Did you have any heated ones there? Because it was very open when I went and saw it. I don't know if I went the opening night or not, but
there were a few times where, how do I say this nicely? There were some people who had some. I'm sorry, I wasn't looking at you. There were some very people had a lot of opinions, and when you talk about religion and you talk about people's beliefs and you question those beliefs, people get like hard-hearted instantly, and they're like, they don't want to move from where they stand, and so that was tough. But I think most people were willing to kind of have that conversation. And the idea that the play presents is there a hell? Like, what if there is no hell? What if this is a construct that we were told, and then how do people, fit into that? And so I think people were willing to talk about it, but, it was tough. It was a tough conversation to have. Just like the ones we did for Angels in America were also tough because you have to, you have to really delve into the dark history and dark things about ourselves and our society. So. Anyway, Sunday morning, I don't want to talk about
Okay, we'll switch gears a little bit. You announced 2 weeks ago now, I guess, that Ad Astra's decided to retire, come to an end, or however you want to put it. Tell us about that. I mean, I think people are interested in hearing what happened, and let's kill off some rumors now. I mean, straight from the Craig's mouth kind of thing.
Straight from the Craig's mouth.
I don't like being compared to a horse, but okay.
You're not a horse.
Thank you. I do have a big mouth, but this is, I don't know. I don't want to say that it's been like years in the making, because it hasn't been. Because I've I've enjoyed doing this. We've all enjoyed being a part of this thing.
Absolutely.
And I'm surprised that it has made it as long as it has. What I've told some people is like, we are all like, I don't know that everyone knows this, but every person on the board is a volunteer. Like, every person does it because they love to do it. Not one of us is getting paid to do it.
And who are the people on the board that had volunteered? Because this has been 10 years that they've been doing this.
There's a lot of people. I'm probably going to forget someone. Right now, it's myself, Kim Remp, Kelly Degenhart, Jason Degenhart, Robin Bonsall, Ben Alford, David Pomeroy, and I feel like that's our group right now.
Sure.
Stacy Myers has been part of it, Josh Yoho, Dan Hines, Heather Ives. There's been a handful of people who've kind of come and gone that have helped shape what we've done.
But it's definitely a passion for everybody
Yeah.
on that. Because this is a lot of time we're talking about to do this stuff.
Well, and if you look in that 10-year history, like, and I said this on Facebook when I posted the thing, in 10 years, all of our lives have changed pretty dramatically.
Yeah.
When we started, Kim was a teenager or was just out of high school and then left to go to college and came back from college and joined us again. Kelly and Jason have now 2 wonderful children that they didn't have when we started. They weren't even, I don't think they were even married when we started. So, that's changed. I'm now married. There's just so many shifts that have happened in our life. And my job that was here in Topeka, when I moved to Lawrence High School, I was just not here very often. So, the last 2 shows we did, working all day and then driving over here at night to do rehearsal and then driving back, it became this, it became really difficult to maintain our lives outside of it because things have been I'm trying to say this appropriately, but they've blossomed a lot, they've grown a lot, and the responsibilities have gotten bigger. And there's 7 of us. And again, we're all volunteers, we all have day jobs and we all do this at night. And so, Kelly, who has to handle all of our finances, has to do all of those filings and then maintain budgets for people and get people money and make sure we have money and that we're not going bankrupt,
Yeah.
Which is tough. It's just really tough. And I think the decision came out of the fact that we looked back and said, are we happy with how we've performed? Do we want to continue? If we do continue, how is that going to look? And I think everyone was we looked at each other and we smiled and then we cried a little bit, and it was I think this is probably the best time because we get control over the narrative. We say, we're happy with how we ended things. We're not going out for a negative reason. We're not it's not that we don't have any money. It's not that we, are losing people. There's no scandal. It's just, I think we did something that we're happy with and that we're passionate about.
Yeah.
And then we shared it, and then we'd like to make room for other people to do the same thing.
What are your thoughts about some of the stuff that you guys did? I guess the best way to say it, what are you most proud of over that past 10 years? I mean, you guys done a lot of stuff, and with a lot of actors, and I personally love the homegrown aspect of this, and then allowing other people who have never directed, who have never musically directed or choreography or anything else, and you've had that opening to allow those things to happen for new artists and all things. I really appreciate that, but that's me projecting on you a little bit.
Yeah.
But what are you guys most proud of?
I mean, I think it's 2 things. I think the Homegrown project is probably number 1. The fact that we had this idea to reach out to playwrights locally and find ways to showcase their work because they weren't getting done in any other way.
Yeah.
That to me is important because, again, it gets to go back to those stories that should be told, especially people that are in this community, that live and work in this community, that want to tell stories about their lives or our community. The other part of that, I think, is something else that you said, is the mission was to give opportunities to people who may not have had those opportunities in other places, or I want to try my hand at this thing, so I would like to try to do this, and so how can we find a venue for you to do that? How can we find an avenue for you to create or bring your talents to what we're doing? And getting those people involved it has been really important. And then from an acting perspective, is how do you take 6 actors who have never had a chance to do Angels in America, and to learn how to look at this play, to understand this play, and then to perform this play that they're probably never going to get, not necessarily going to get a chance to do in a while,
Yeah.
and so giving new people new shots and letting them kind of explore themselves and explore their own creativity has been important too.
And to kind of go along this, the negative side, or the photo negative side, if you will, what were some of the most challenging moments over those 10 years? Because I think if people are interested in starting their own theater troupe or group or something to do this, what are some of the tips, tricks, whatever else? How do you continue teaching this? In other words, to kind of what to expect if you're going to do this kind of thing?
Have a lot of free time. I wish that. Okay, so this is very personal, but I wish that I had gone into it with money. Like, money is not the most important thing, but it is. You need money to continue and to do things.
Yeah.
When we started, the only money we had was my student loan money.
So get yourself in trouble here.
I know, but I had a job that summer, but we didn't have any money. Like, nobody was offering to pay for what we were doing. We did a couple fundraisers, which gave us $500, $700, which was great. But it was really hard to start because you have to have some sort of cash or find people who are willing to give you things for free. I feel very strongly that we're lucky that we found people who are willing to donate their time or to let us use the space for free. But I also feel really icky about that a lot of the times because I feel like in the 10-year span I don't want anyone to ever feel like we took advantage of their kindness or their time or whatever. I don't want anyone to ever feel that way. And I know that there were years that were more financially tough than others, and so there were times where we had to really beg and borrow and steal for stuff. But I would say find a financial backer or a financial source before you do anything else. You have the idea, you have the drive to do it, that's wonderful, but if you don't have even just a small amount of capital behind you, you may not get as far as you want to get. We're pretty lucky that we that we were able to continue a second season because we did make money on our first. So, the other thing is just find people who are differently talented than you. Find people who do things better than you in certain areas. Surround yourself with people who are good at many different things.
Like finances or logistics or
Yeah.
whatever. Just make a well-rounded team.
Yeah, I don't know how we managed to get so lucky that when we first started, I had the artistic drive to do this stuff. Kelly had was really good with money and had financial experience, though I think she probably would tell you differently. But then Jason had connections with musicians and knew who to talk to and who to find and how to find them, and was able to do that and continue doing that for the full 10 years. Every time we needed a band, here you go,
Those
you
guys
do it.
are awesome.
Yeah. Ben is really good at sound and does great work with sound and brought a lot of talent in with that. Heather had a really strong artistic drive. Dan was a whip smart motivator and planner and knew how to get shit done and did it.
Legal mind as well.
Yes, and luckily my best friend was a lawyer, so we were able to incorporate and have an LLC and all that stuff. So everyone had a job to do, and Stacy had good company management skills and knew how to set up all these things and knew what we were supposed to do, and so we got lucky that we had all those people. So if someone wants to start something else, you just need to find people who are good at many different things and are willing to give their time.
And,
Go ahead.
go with your.
I was just saying that I really liked you guys doing the 24-hour play festival. Because like you said, giving people a chance to do different things, giving people a chance, oh, hey, do you want to come direct? Do you want to, hey, you want to come write this piece? And then also get actors a chance that they don't maybe not necessarily get to do a lot of things, or they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to it, but they can dedicate a night and then a day. Was what I even though once or twice I might have been bullied into doing it, I loved it.
I never bullied anyone. I don't know what you're talking about.
Pushed lovingly, yet aggressively.
Well, see, that's my favorite thing though about that is that we'd always. The first time we did it, did you do it the first time, Sean?
No.
Okay.
I think 13 was on my first year.
Okay.
Going.
because I don't know. I again don't know how we created. I don't know how we pulled that off the first year because it was a nightmare, and just trying to get like legit like spaces for people to rehearse, and then a performance space, and like we had people scattered all over downtown, like people at the break room, people in like at the Jayhawk, people in random places all over town that we had to have people like walking and checking in on people. And then my favorite thing is to like send those Facebook messages to people and like, hey, remember this thing's going on. You should do this thing. And like trying to get people to do it. And then once they did it, people loved it.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just a matter of like showing them what it was and then encouraging, you know, you're going to have a good time. And it's stressful, but it's fun.
Yeah.
You know? So
It's fun and exhilarating. Now, this is some other questions I've had. And that is, you talked about how you were cast in things and stuff. So you had, initially it was a drive to be an actor, and then when was it where you're like, you know what, I really like directing? When was that?
that happened in high school, actually.
It was in high school?
I went to college for acting. I got my degree in acting, and after I graduated, I was like, I'm going to be an actor. And I went on a 6-month children's theater tour across the country, and it was the worst experience of my life. Just me and 2 other people in a van for 6 months.
Oh, wow.
It was awful. And so I was like, maybe I'm not. Maybe I don't want to be an actor. Yeah. Well, and then when I came back, I auditioned at TCT. I only made 1 show, and that was Midsummer. And I enjoyed my experience, but I was like, I'm not getting cast in like the way I want to be. So maybe I'm not that good. But in high school, I had a really terrible experience with my drama teacher, which is probably what made me a teacher. But she would consistently not cast me or cast me in very small roles. So again, I thought, not very good. And then this one-act competition that Topeka High used to do every year came along, and she was like, do you want to direct something? And I said, sure. And I did it, and I loved it. And my inner control freak was like, you just found the thing for yourself. This is the best thing to do. But then in college, I was like, oh, maybe I'll try being an actor again. And then when the directing opportunity came up, it was like, yeah, this is right. This feels good.
I remember. So. I loved this part of it. Do you have drive to act again?
I mean, I acted in one thing 3 years ago. But mostly because my best friend and my roommate Darren Kennedy was directing it, and it was with us.
Oh, it was homegrown too.
Yes, it was a homegrown project. And I went to auditions, and I was like, "Do you want me to read with anybody? Because you don't have anybody here." So I did, and then we went home, and he was like, "Guess who I'm going to cast in this role?" I was like, "No, no, I can't do it." And it was probably the hardest acting gig that I've had. There were some challenging actors to work with in that because their processes were very different from mine, and so
there
that
always
was,
are.
Yeah, that was tough. And the playwright was in the room all the time, which was good for Darren, I think, and good for the group, but it made it really difficult. So
And say the show, because we haven't said that.
oh, it was called Visions of Right.
And it was written by?
Marcia Sapolska.
There we go.
Yeah.
I want to make sure to get that.
Yeah, and she's a wonderful human being, and I absolutely love her. And that is not shade to her by any means. It's just that there's pressure of having this person in the room the whole time, you know. And then to work with like Scott Kiefer, who I absolutely adore, and scared the crap out of me during that show because he was just so angry and so like huge. It was hard. And I haven't thought about it since, and I haven't thought about acting since. I'm sure I would if the right thing came up, but I also have a lot of like insecurities about myself and about my acting ability, so not fully willing to like jump back into those waters quite yet. So, yeah.
So I'll start the mundane questioning here, just completely off topic. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I am studying for a huge test I have to take to get my teacher license.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And eating with my family.
Oh,
but yeah.
Productive.
Yeah.
That's always good.
I mean, I guess. It's like the last thing I want to do.
Yeah, that's okay. So we talked about a little previously because you're a big movie nerd too. That's what we've talked a lot about movies. That's how we've bonded a little bit. Okay, I want a top 3 actor or actress. You can pick any. We talked a little bit beforehand, but please elaborate.
I'm going to change something that I said earlier to you too.
Ooh, okay.
So, I'm going to take Nikki Kidman off my list,
Okay.
even though I love her. I'm going to go with Toni Collette like number one.
Ooh, yeah.
Because everything she's done has been amazing. Number two, I'm going to go with, I just lost her name. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. Oh, Kate Blanchett.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We just watched Where'd You Go, Bernadette
Was
last
that good?
night. It was good. It was marketed incorrectly.
I didn't look like my cup of tea when I
Yeah.
saw trailers.
The trailer looks like it's like a woman who's like trying to find herself and trying to like escape her family, and that's not what it is at all. It's about creativity, it's about mental health, it's about
Okay.
being able to express yourself. It was actually really, really good.
Well, they should have talked to you before they made the trailers.
I guess. You know. Number three, unpopular opinion, but Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked her a lot in Mother.
That movie should be a play. That movie should be a play.
That would scare the shit out
Can
of
you
me.
imagine?
Whatever.
Can you imagine? It would be so good though, right?
It would be good, but it's so intense.
Yeah. You couldn't do some of the things that happen in that.
Like them literally ripping the house
Yeah.
to shreds.
Yeah.
It's just all of a sudden it turns into a massive war and it's crazy.
We saw that movie and I said to David afterwards, I was like, I can't decide if I liked it or if I hated it. Like, I couldn't decide where I was. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, this is good. This is like asking me to think about the world in a way that I haven't thought about the world before.
Yeah.
And what we're doing to our planet and what we're doing to each other.
Yeah.
And like, those are the kind of movies I want to see. I want those movies that are asking us questions. I don't, like the fluff stuff is great. And I love just sitting and watching. But like, I want to see things that are going to ask an audience a tough question.
Yeah.
Not all the time. Not all the time.
No.
I watched that, and then I watched RuPaul's Drag Race to like decompress.
Okay, that's your
from
okay.
Yeah.
What's like the most recent amazing performance you've seen?
We talked about this before. I think the performance of the year for me is Elizabeth Moss and Her Smell.
I really gotta see
Yeah.
that. I really
don't-
gotta see that.
I don't even know if it's out on. I think it has to be out on video because it came out before, like in April, right? I think like it's so good. What I talked about after I saw it was that, and I told you guys this, that I'm a huge I love my music from the '90s. I love how influential it was in my life, and like I loved a lot of women artists from that time. And the movie is about this girl rock band who is just ripping apart at the seams because of one person's behavior, and it's like reconciling what this person did, and then having her kind of have to learn from that and then make amends and grow and try to like do something with her art. And I just have never seen an actress like chew on every word in a script before the way she does in the movie. It's just insane. It's like,
I already wanted to see it, but now you completely sold me on that.
well, I mean, it's good. It's hard to watch because it's like you're watching a kind of a terrible person be very terrible for like half of the movie.
Yeah.
But then the second half is very redemptive and like it reflects back a lot. So
You're talking about music. I know that you are a huge fan of the Tori Amos.
yes, don't even get me started.
Little Earthquakes came out when I was in high school, and it made me want to be a better man. Like it made me want to understand what it is that women go through every single day of their life.
Yeah.
And so every time you post about Tori Amos, I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. I wish that more people knew that because even my husband had no idea who she was when we got married, and so we had to have like a month-long class on like this is the song you need to know, these are the music videos you need to watch, this is the book you need to read. Like
Now I need a 5-page paragraph.
yes, like you're in school so you can do this. She made me want to be a fiery redhead that learned to play the piano. Yeah.
She's inspirational.
Yeah, in many ways. Yeah.
Well, that kind of leads to another question. If real life person, 3. This is a Dylan top 3 there. 3 life real people that you'd like to portray in a movie or a play at some point.
Does it have to be within my own gender?
No.
No.
No. In fact, it's better if it's not.
Okay, that's tough too. I'm gonna say I want to say Tori Amos is one of them.
Yeah.
Because that would be really interesting. There's this. So have you ever read or seen The Normal Heart?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Larry Kramer is a very divisive human being, but he's someone who I very much look up to and have a lot of respect for. And I think I would relish kind of digging into his like activism and his like prickliness and like how kind of forthright he is and his fight. There's some things about him that I think I could take from, you know. I don't know a third one. I'm like, I can think of like stories I want to tell, but like.
Okay, then that's fine. Give us some of those.
Well, it's already being told, but like, I would like to write a musical. After I saw Her Smell, I wanted to write a musical about. I wanted to basically turn that into a play, because it's all kind of centrally located in one area, but then to like look at these '90s like rock groups and these female artists like Lilith Fair and all that stuff, and to see like what that looks like and tell some of those stories, and like, you know, that would be really interesting to me to be able to do that. But then now there's the Jagged Little Pill musical, which, I mean, I told David last night, I was like, that is, if I had $1 million and I could go right now, that's what I would go see, because that album like changed my DNA.
That was big.
Yeah. I mean, they're all like, I would all like, it makes it sound like I want to do drag all the time and just play all these women, but I just have such respect and like admiration for.
Well, like you said, you're all about the stories, and I mean, these stories about these women, from these women are
interesting.
They're interesting. Yeah.
I've always wondered why there's not a Tornamus musical. Like, why we haven't taken all of her music.
Because I'd spent all my money going to see.
Yeah, I know, like too. Yeah.
Where it's in London? All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye, chaps.
Yeah. See you later. I'm gonna live there for a couple months. Yeah.
Is there a play or a musical that you've never done that you still want to do?
Well,
it's just been right out of your reach.
Yeah. There's a few. Normal Heart is one. I would love to do that play so badly. And then there's a couple, like, there's a Sarah Rule play called To Peter Pan on her 70th birthday.
Yes.
Which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And about aging and about kind of wrapping up your life and kind of talking about what goes on in, you know, your life. I would also like to do Angels in America Part 2 at some point. You know, we didn't do both parts, so that'd be nice to do. Yeah.
Okay, Craig, all right, so we're going to wrap up here, but we want to ask you, what is the future for Craig, the future of Craig?
Well, right now it's kind of up in the air, which is kind of cool. It hasn't been that way for a while. I mean, I love my new job. I love my students, and I love growing this program. Outside of my job, I don't know what's coming, which is kind of interesting, and it's never really been the case before. So it's like, am I gonna act? Am I gonna go audition for something? Am I gonna take like a 3-year break? I don't know what that entails.
Yeah, I imagine it's crazy now having having some. I mean, you're still a teacher, so how much free time do you really have?
Right.
But having some more free time, I imagine, is invigorating.
Yeah, we've been discussing having a family for a little while. And so what that entails, especially for us, is going to be a little bit more difficult. So, you know, trying to find how that's going to work and how we're going to do it, I think, is probably the next step, more than likely, is to kind of
that's really cool.
Create a little theater baby. You know?
Perfect little theater baby.
Yeah. Or a theater teenager, depending on what happens.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Well, Craig, I want to say, and I think I speak for these guys too, thank you for the years of Ad Astra. Thank you for just mixing it up a little bit and bringing some new stuff. And personally, thank you for the opportunities you've given me to be a part of directing and learning under your tutelage, as it were, and just everything you guys have done, and not just you, but the entire Ad Astra board and all the supporters for Ad Astra, Jayhawk Theater, and Warehouse. I mean, all those things, and all the actors who've been in any show at Ad Astra, because it paves the way. I mean, I think there's a future for those kinds of things that you guys have already started, and I hope we can be a part of that at some point and keep it going. But nothing but the best for you and David and your future. And thank you for coming on.
I love you guys. Thank you very much.
I love you too, Craig.